Today's project is installing a brand new head unit which supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'm going to be installing this in my 2003 Subaru Impreza WRX, and the head unit I've chosen is the Sony AX3200. Now this process should be pretty similar regardless of the car you're putting it in or the head unit you've chosen, but I'll talk about a few differences as I go along. It also shouldn't make too much difference if you're replacing a factory head unit or replacing an aftermarket one, which is what I'm going to be doing. So this is the head unit. Got the instruction manual, the head unit itself, as well as the wiring harness, a few extra cables and the remote. And this is where the head unit's going. I'm going to replace this old single DIN Pioneer head unit. The slot in here is a standard double DIN slot, and the head unit is a double DIN, so it'll fit nicely in there. But don't worry if you don't have a double DIN slot as standard there. I'll show you what you need to do. For example, if I was going to change the head unit in our Sprinter van, you can see here it's not a standard double DIN size. So what I'd do would be take that head unit out, and then when I'm installing that double DIN unit, I would get a fascia kit like this, which is basically a plastic trim that would fill that gap nicely and tie it into the double DIN face of the head unit. Or some head units are larger and they'll come with a fascia kit. So you just have to get a fascia kit that fits your car. So to start off with, I need to get this old head unit out, and to do that I need to take some of this fascia off around it. It's going to be different in every car, but for this one I've got to take the cup holder out. Just a couple of screws here to start with. You can now pull that whole unit out, put it out of the way, and then you can use plastic trim remover tools, or it also just pops off. And then we've got access to the head unit. It's held in with 6 screws here. Apparently there is actually only 2 of them remaining. And then that whole thing there will slide out. Disconnect the microphone, the antenna, and you can see here whoever has done this previously has done a very, very wild job. It's all just taped up. There's no solder on those, and there's no factory plug left there either. Just pop these plugs out as well, just to get this out of the way. And then I just want to start disconnecting all the plugs. Now I have actually had this out before to have a look at it, and the plug is so badly damaged in there that I can't unplug it, so I'm going to have to probably just pull a lot of these apart. And that's the old head unit, the little storage case there, and the mounting hardware as well. So hopefully what you're going to find when you pull out the old head unit is the factory plug, and not something like this. It'd be a plug similar to this, and then what you can do is just get a wiring harness adapter. In the case of the Subaru, it would be Subaru to ISO would be the first part of the adapter, and then you'd get the second part of the adapter, which would be ISO to Sony, and then you would just plug part 1 into the factory harness, and then part 2 into the adapter, and then into the harness for the head unit that you've got, and it would just basically be plug and play. Whereas in my case, I need to get a wiring diagram for the Subaru head unit, and then use the diagram from the manual of this and match up every single connection and wire them in by hand, which is going to be a little bit of a pain. So what I'm going to do now is just clean up this harness so I've got somewhere to work from. Get my trusty wire snippers, and I just rate these so highly that it make this so much easier. Just strip back each of these so I've got something to connect to. So with the harness in the car all cleaned up like that and the ends stripped on all those, I'm going to do the same on the harness that came with the head unit and just strip back the ends of those, ready to make my connections. So with both of these all sorted, now what I need to do is connect the corresponding wire from the Subaru harness to the wire on the Sony harness. So what I've done is had a look at the Subaru wiring diagram and the Sony head unit wiring diagram. I've listed out each connection in a table, and then I've put in the Subaru color wire and the Sony color wire and lined them up. So the first one I've got in the table is the positive illumination. In the car it's violet or purple, and then on the head unit side it's orange, white striped. So I need to connect those two up. Before I do that, I'm going to put some heat shrink over the connection so that I can seal it up when it's done. So I'm using some 4mm heat shrink glue lined, and it's 4:1 ratio, so it'll go from 4mm down to 1mm. Slide that over there, and then I can connect these up and solder them. And I've just put down an old sheet just to avoid any damage from the solder. Alright, everything's now wired up. I've just left the reverse in wire not connected because I will be putting the reverse camera in at a later date. Now it's just a matter of sliding the heat shrink over each of these connections. Then using a heat gun, or you could use a soldering iron, just shrink all the heat shrink. So if you had steering wheel controls on your car, you'd wire this in as well. And next up, I'm just going to run the cable for the microphone. So there is an existing microphone up here, but who knows how old it is, and I think the connection's different as well. So I'm going to put the new one in, but I'm going to run it up and put it in the same spot. So I'm just going to take this A-pillar trim off. Starting at the top with the microphone so I don't have to feed that thick bit through everywhere. So it's a little bit challenging to get the cable down there and thread it through where I want because it's so flexible. So I've just taped it to a little bit of a firmer rod. And then from here I can grab the cable and pull it through. Just tape that back into place there. And then I can pop this bit of trim back. And then pull the end of this microphone cable through behind the head unit. Now what I need to do is take the mounting brackets off each side of the old head unit and attach them to the new one. These are marked left-hand side and right-hand side. Just check the fitment. Nice. Undo this USB connection for the CarPlay Android Auto. Run that down the back. So now I can plug everything into the head unit. So the wiring harness can go into there. This extra earth that goes on the side of the case. I've got my aerial and the microphone as well. And now I can mount this into its spot. satisfying reveal. Then connect everything back up on this fascia. And then we've got the screen installed. Looks pretty good. Almost looks factory. A lot better than what was there before. All right, moment of truth. We want demo off. Set the date. It's the first month, 2025. Fairly responsive screen. And for now I've just run this under the trim here, but I'll tidy that up later and put it in a spot where I can plug my cable in and have it out of the way. Just plug a phone in. Fairly responsive, it's quite nice, not too much glare. Let's have a look. Yeah, pretty happy with that overall.